It's time to talk NASCAR and IndyCar on Prime Sports NASCAR with Eric Smith at RaceReviewOnline.net. Atlanta Motor Speedway. Can't wait. A lot of fun stuff I'm hearing about this race that we're going to watch on Sunday. We'll first off recap quickly what happened last week. Before we do that, welcome in Eric Smith. Eric.
Thank you. Yeah.
Parody. Is it officially here?
I think so. I mean, I wrote about that this week. You had, and if you look, we talked about this last week too on the show. Out of the four winners, 28-1, 18-1, 4-1, Larson, we expected that one, and then 50-1. It's like, what? And the long odds, like I wrote, there's no reason. Why would you pick those drivers at those odds for what they do at those tracks? And they're winning. So now you're coming to a race this weekend that's as unpredictable as they're going to be. So
I don't know.
I mean, that's why the odds are what they are. I mean, you're getting Daytona and Talladega type odds for a race that could be like Daytona or Talladega, but drivers just don't know yet. Don't know until you practice. But I don't think anybody's going to get out there and mix it up in practice, even if it looks like there's rain in the forecast for Friday. So I'm not sure how much practice they'll get in. Maybe they cancel qualifying tomorrow and just add a practice session, because you kind of need to practice because they've changed a lot here. But how much are they really going to mix it up in practice? How much are you really going to risk if it's going to be like Daytona or Talladega drafting? So, yeah, a lot of unpredictables, and we get some unpredictable odds. So it's just like, hey, let's keep it rolling.
Yes, and last week, can you believe that? I pick up Chase Briscoe, and he goes out and he wins.
Yeah,
my fantasy team.
First week.
How about that?
That's why I made the move I made this week. Might as well go Chastain. Let's see if he can keep it up.
You were going to pick him up. You were thinking of picking him up last week.
I did.
He had one more good race, and that's all you needed. And he didn't lead any laps, but again, he was right there in contention the whole race pretty much. So I was just surprised that you dumped Bell for Chastain, but I'm assuming it's because of the fact that you now have Suarez and Chastain as teammates.
Yeah, they're running so well, and Bell's not. And it's like, just looking at it, it just didn't make sense to drop any of the other guys. I mean, I had Almirola, and he's had a top 12 in every race, top 10 in every race prior to last week. So it's like, you're not going to drop that guy. He's been the best, I guess, statistical finisher on the year. So you're not going to drop him. And Bell's I just feel like spins and mistakes after mistake. So, and Chastain's literally sitting right there, 2 straight top 3 finishes. He's been running good. It's just like, I'd be a fool not to pick him up. And now he's going to go on a cold streak probably. But
probably,
I mean,
yeah.
The trends say he went from 3rd to 2nd. He should win this week. So
I'll buy that.
Might as well. I mean, we've had so much parity. I could always, if the way things happen as the season goes on, your CJ drops anyway, I could always swap others later. Sure. But for right now, it's early.
We're just going to hope that this is going to be what we're going to see for most of the season. We can just hope.
I think it is. I mean, you got to look. You got this week, and then next week's a road course with COTA that it was rainy and it was a shit show last year.
Oh, we got to start those road courses? Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Well, you don't know what you're going to get out of that. And then you've got Bristol.
I hope. Well, that's the thing. That will be a true test of parity. The road course.
Yeah, because Hendrick's been so dominant. Do we get this? Does it continue? Because this car, they say, was built for road course. Like, it's geared towards that. It's going to race better on road courses because the old car was made for mostly ovals, turning left. Why would you build it to go left and right? Well, this one had it kind of in theory to do both. That's why they keep saying these racers that. So we'll see. Yeah, next week's the true test, and then you got Bristol Dirt a few weeks after that. So
Bristol Dirt.
I think we could get
we could have 3 new winners again.
Yeah, it's good for us.
Yes,
good for.
As long as we can pick the right driver. Yes.
That's key. It's like, that's why I went so many long shots this week, is like, why not? I mean, it seems like long shots are winning, and there's no rhyme or reason to pick some of the, like I said, there's absolutely no way anybody in their right mind last week, looking at my notes here for Phoenix with Chase Briscoe's finishes as a rookie were 22nd, 35th. Why would we pick him to win last week?
Yeah.
Well, he wins. We know the stat
That's
about
because
Daytona.
Well, that's the reason though was because if you take a look, and again, this is why sometimes whenever you're thinking about do we go with a driver that is hot, or do we go with a driver that is good at a specific track? Briscoe, even though the results weren't necessarily there except for Daytona, you could tell, which is the reason I picked him up. You could tell that things were different. He was a different driver. So I think that's the same thing. Now we have to not worry so much about past performances, especially from the younger drivers. Just go ahead and just, if you think a driver's hot, take them.
Exactly. And I'll be curious. This week may be a little different because they said it could run like a Daytona or Talladega.
How is that? I don't know. See, I got to see that to believe it, because I see what they're saying, but I've heard this before.
Yep.
And then you get out there and it's just, okay. So, but it's a new car. So, okay, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, but
I don't think it will, in a sense. And sometimes I don't believe it till I see it either, because it's not as wide as Daytona and Talladega. There's going to be tire fall off. Yes, it's a repay, but there is still going to be some fall off. And that's going to separate people naturally. So I don't think you're going to get lap after lap of 3 lanes or 2 lanes, just like looks like Daytona. I think it might for a little while, but it'll eventually work itself out. But a common trend, and again, I didn't go with it this week because, again, you don't know what to expect here, and maybe not even next week at COTA. But moving forward after those races, when you get back to a normal NASCAR track, one thing that I've noticed that Chase Briscoe brought up last week is the guys with dirt backgrounds are the ones that are thriving quicker, because you got to look at the winners. Daytona 500 is Daytona. That doesn't really run like a dirt track. Then you go to Vegas. Alex Bowman is a sprint car driver and a midget driver. He won. Then you go to Fontana. Kyle Larson, we know what he does on dirt. He won. Then you go to Vegas. Bowman wins. Last week, Briscoe wins. It's a lot of dirt drivers. Reddick has a little bit of dirt. I mean, it's just like, maybe he's onto something. You look at the pole winners, Larson, Christopher Bell. A lot of the guys that ran dirt are thriving.
Why?
He mentioned a couple of reasons. One, this car is so on edge. We've seen how many spins that we see every week. I mean, just the dirt guys are used to driving cars on edge. They're used to loose race cars in the turns where they can finagle the car and not lose grip. They're used to driving like that.
I thought Alex Bowman said that this was going to be tough for him.
That's what he said that, and then now it's kind of playing into his
But
wheelhouse.
again, he did steal the win, though. It wasn't like he dominated with 100 laps or anything like that.
He was the top 5 driver that day. He seems that his finishes haven't been indicative a lot of what he's. Was he a race-winning car? No. Was he a top 5 car? Yes. Same thing with last week. He was around all day. So they're saying, I guess, the cars for them, they're a handful, but so is a midget sprint car on dirt. Okay. You've got to have car control. So it's working for them. And 2, they said, which makes sense, on dirt tracks, this format of a race weekend is like it is in dirt. Very short practice session. You have hot laps. Then you qualify real quick. And then you run into heat races. And then you race. And they said that's kind of what we're doing in NASCAR. It's because they usually just run them all in a one-night show. But NASCAR, which talked about before, they could probably condense all this to one day again. Do we really need to do a 20-minute practice session, qualifying, and then wait a whole day to come back?
Sure.
Because that's kind of what they're doing on the dirt track scene. So that is kind of why it equates out to these guys. It comes natural to them.
Well,
not great.
I mean, they look, but you know what'll happen after this week is that if a dirt track type driver wins, they'll say, okay, you see, and if it doesn't, they'll go, well, that's because Atlanta's like Daytona.
Exactly.
So we're really not going to know this. The theories are not really going to be known yet. Like you said, with the road course coming up and the dirt track coming up, probably not going to know this for at least another month.
Exactly. Because then you have, even in the next month, you got the dirt track. We got Talladega. You got 2 short tracks with Martinsville and Richmond are really the only 2 coming up until May that is really going to prove the dirt track theory. One is an actual dirt track, I get, but those dirt guys should do good on a dirt track. So
Sure.
again, you're really not going to know this theory, like I said, until May, probably until you get to like Dover and Charlotte,
which is hopefully a good thing.
Yeah, which is a thing for us betting wise to keep in your back pocket, knowing going into them that nothing is really that theory works, and then it's just put over here with a pin in it because it's not nothing's going to be indicative of that in the next month, and then revisit it again when you need it. So we'll see.
When I look at your notes, track notes for Atlanta, 1.5 mile tri-oval, it's got higher banking. It's an older, rougher surface, so the tires are definitely going to wear out.
Oh, it used to be.
It used to be.
Repaved it. Yeah, that's why. Yeah,
When did they repave it? Last year?
Yeah, in between the last season.
So they had the one race was old and the second race was new.
It was after the second race, so between July and now.
So this is the first race with new.
Yep. And that's why they said, first race with newly paved. The banking's 28 degrees now instead of what it was. They made the dog leg wide. So, this is all new.
Interesting.
So that's why you really don't know what you're going to get because it's...
So, really, we shouldn't even be comparing it to any other track right now.
No. That's... You really can't compare it to past Atlanta because that was an old surface.
Yeah.
And that surface was there since 1997. So you really don't know.
You don't know. Look what happened. We talked last week. Look what happened to Kevin Harvick when they repaved the surface at Phoenix.
Yep,
big difference.
It is. And then you also look at this aero package is the same horsepower and spoiler as they run in Daytona and Talladega, not at any other mile-and-a-half track. And granted, we've only ran one this year in Vegas, so there's really not a lot. You're kind of going in blind. You're kind of just going in with a mixture of both and see what happens.
That doesn't make it easy for us handicappers, though.
Nope.
No.
That's why I took so many drivers. I'm like, I don't know what the.
Yeah.
I can't because you really don't know.
No.
That's few stand out if you combine old Atlanta and super speedways, but that's not guaranteed to be worth. We'll know more next year after this weekend.
Yeah.
But.
Well,
past that, you really don't know.
If you go by previous data, you got only 2 winners started in the top 5 over the last 11 races. No winners on the front row since 2009. Ford won 5 of the last 6. And Chevy snapped Ford's 5-race win streak in July when Kurt Busch won. Toyota has not won the last 9 races here at Atlanta, so they're pretty happy about the changes at the racetrack, and we'll see how that impacts it. But again, I think it's going to make it very difficult for us to handicap this first race at Atlanta. And when I take a look at our picks, there are 3 drivers that we all agreed upon, and they're 3 of the top drivers, actually. But the good thing is that again, we got Daytona odds because we've got the favorites are 10-1. Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney. And those 2 we all agreed upon. And then the Kyle Busch we all agreed upon at 12-1. And to me, I think this is it for Kyle for me. I mean, if they don't have a really good week and they don't maybe even win, I think I might relax on taking Kyle because I want to see some good finishes and results. I'm sure Kyle does. But out of the picks that you made, I believe here, the one that pays off the most for you is Blaney. Same thing tied up with CJ with Larson, and same thing for me. So we all kind of like Ryan Blaney as the driver to beat. The problem is, once again, he's losing position on pit road, so that hasn't changed. But the combination of his expertise at tracks like Daytona, the fact that he won this race last March as the defending champ, that's a good combination. And the fact that he's doing really well if he could just get some help from his teammates.
Exactly. And Kyle Larson out of those scares me the most because if this runs like a super speedway, he's like
he's not good.
He's 0 for 29.
Yeah.
Top 5s. He doesn't even have a top 5. So that scared me the most. He's only got 2 top 5s in his last 5 in Atlanta overall, both being runner-ups, but he's 10-1. So it's like you got to throw money his way. But like you said, Blaney, if his pit crew can you just service his car and get the guy back out without, I mean, he lost 9 spots in 2 pit stops. And it's like that.
And that's an improvement.
Yeah. It's just, it's just unfathomable how many times they take him. And he kept saying he didn't throw him under the bus, and he kept saying, hey, pit road, and my car was a vibration.
You better start throwing him under the bus.
What's odd is he kept talking about his car, and he did. He had a vibration. I believe him. He still led the most laps. So you take the pit crew out of it, the element out of it, and you just get him back out. I mean, he won the second stage. He enters the pits first. He comes out fourth. It's like
he had the top stall too.
He did. And then you wait, because he won the pole. And then the next stop, the final one, they lose him 6 more spots. It's like, come on, guys. You took the win from him, which that's, again, goes into the betting thing, because if you take that out of the equation, Blaney is probably going to win that race, not Chase Briscoe. He had a better car. But that's what happens. Here we are in Atlanta. It's almost like we're falling for the trapping. It's like he's the sexy driver at 10-1. But I look at it, the Fords in general, they were dominant in Daytona. They went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in all 4 practices. 1, 2, 3 in one duel. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the other duel. And they had 3 cars in the top 5 of the Daytona 500. Atlanta, we just talked about how good they all have been in Atlanta. So it's like,
something has to make sense for Ford this week. It has to.
Yeah, and it's like Blaney's the top guy. If his pit crew just stays out of his way, if he enters the pit second, I'm not saying gain him a spot. I'm saying just let him exit the position that he entered, and he'll be okay.
Is that so difficult?
Yes.
How can Briscoe and Chastain, those guys, have better pit crews?
It just doesn't. And Penske's usually, they don't take it lightly, because they call it Penske perfect. He likes perfection. They wear starch white shirts and pleated black pants.
Better start making some changes then.
That's what's odd, is as perfect as they are, Blaney's the only pit crew year after year after year that happens.
And this is getting worse.
It is. They're not. They've got to address this soon. But for right now, for 10-1 odds, and you give me those Fords, you've got to take it and run with it.
Sort of like what I said about Kyle too. It's like, all right, because I haven't taken Blaney the last 2 weeks. Specifically, not because I didn't think he could perform well, but because I just didn't trust his pit crew. But I have to take him this week, because it's just everything's lined up just too well.
If he was like 7-1, I probably, honestly, because of his pit crew, I'd probably avoid him. But 10-1, you kind of have to go all in, because you can close the gap pretty quick.
And by the way, Larson also, during the playoffs last year, won 3 straight races at Charlotte, Texas, Kansas, all 1.5-mile tracks. Also won Coke 600 in Vegas.
He's one of the best, if not the best, right now in a mile and a half. It's just this one is different than the other mile and a half.
But we're getting 10-1.
But that's the key. It'd be one of those, if I didn't pick him, I'd look back and like, you fool. He was 10-1.
Yeah.
You're getting the defending champion at 10-1 on a track.
Got to put some money on him. Yeah.
Yeah, he led 269 laps last year in this race. It's like, out of 325. You had to take him for what's there. So
all right, and then we all took Kyle, who has 8 top 5s and 2 wins in his last 17 races, including runner-ups at Atlanta, including runner-ups 2 of the last 3. He led 91 laps when he was runner-up the last time they were here, and he's 12-1. So again, I'm willing to roll the dice one more week on Kyle. You have him as it looks like pretty much your second choice based on the amount of money that you would make. Right now, though, I just think, and the strange thing is that he sits there in second place in the point standings, and yet it's like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like part of me believes he's getting so much more than I can imagine based on all the issues they've had, which is, again, while I'm willing to roll the dice on him some more here. But on the positive side, just imagine if things start to go his way. He's already second in points, and things really haven't gone his way yet.
No, and because you look, I think he's got 3 top 10s in 4 races this year, and if I'm not mistaken, all in the top 7.
Better than Logano, who's in first.
Yeah, and none of them have been clean races, clean race weekends. I mean, you look at Vegas, he crashed his primary car and started in the back and had some adversity during the race. He spun to avoid a wreck, and he still finishes up front. And then Phoenix last week, he was just kind of there. He just wasn't dominant, but he was there. And then he's speeding on pit road in the end, like, oh, that's it. He's not going to finish in the top 15. And you look up and he's 7th at the end. Like, where the hell did he come from?
Yeah.
So it's like if they can get a race weekend from start to checkered at the end, clean, no spins, no wrecks, no pit stop penalties,
They
he's
could be
probably going to
dominant.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we saw what he can do. Like you mentioned, we can do in Atlanta. Atlanta, I feel like in his past is like his season has gone this year. He's not leading a ton of laps, but he's finished in the top 5. And that's kind of how his season's gone. So it's kind of like both so unpredictable. You put it together, and if this is going to be an unpredictable race and people take each other out, maybe he's right there to capitalize, and you're getting him at 12-1. So that's why I kind of made him my second driver is 12-1 for a driver like that. Why not again? But again, the Toyota thing scares me. They've not won all season. They're 0-4. The other manufacturers have won.
They haven't won at Atlanta.
21 races. Yeah, 4 in the last 21. It's just, it scares me, but he's 12-1.
Yeah, so good odds. Yeah,
you've got to take him.
Yeah. You also put some money on Hamlin, and we both put money on Harvick. Matter of fact, I started to put some money on my futures on Harvick too, and that's the reason I did that is because of his teammates.
Yep.
Now, finally, it looks like he, all the lessons that learned last year starting to pay dividends for the younger drivers. That should make Harvick a better and more competitive driver as well. And he's starting to perform a little bit better. He's not leading enough laps, or I don't even know if he's led any laps this year yet. But he's definitely at 14-1. He's almost like Kyle. Like he's putting himself in position.
He is, and he's got 13 top 10s in his last 15 in Atlanta, and he's led a ton of laps. Yes, he didn't lead any last year, but there's a streak there since 2012. 101 laps, 195 laps, 116 laps, 131 laps, 292 laps, 181 laps, 45 more, 151 more. It's like he's dominant in Atlanta. Granted, it's changed, but you look at Daytona, even this past year, the finish was indicative of how good he was. A top 5 car. He just got caught up in that wreck there at the end with Larson. He had 2 top 5 finishes prior to that in Daytona. So it's like, all right, he's good on Super C. He knows how to take care of his equipment. He's good in Atlanta in the past. He looked improved. I look at Phoenix. Yes, it wasn't a top 5, but he had a top 5 car. He wasn't good on restarts. It's just 2 weeks in a row he said his car is not good on restarts. So that could be a handicap there towards the end if we get a late race restart. But I also think they know they're not good on restarts, but they're good everywhere else. Can't you fix that a little bit? So 14-1, yeah. And then with Hamlin, I mean, that to me was a no-brainer. Yes, he doesn't have a top 10 all year, but he's had some bad luck too. He's probably the top super speedway racer right now.
Oh, that's true.
And you're getting a guy with 3 top 5s in his last 5 in Atlanta for those odds. Again, you can't just leave him on the table. You got the Toyota factor, but still, why not?
We also both put money on Reddick. He's at also 16-1. His best race was actually the last race at Atlanta, so he's solid there, 6th last July before the pave change. 2nd last October at Charlotte. 1 top 5 and 2 Xfinity races at Atlanta. But the bottom line is, as we talked about before, he's dialed in. He's really confident right now.
Yeah, he's coming off a top 5. And you look at Vegas the week prior, he spun early. He's been having leg cramp issues. He still finished 7th. He was great in Fontana, swept the stages, led 90 laps, cut a tire in the end, or he probably would have won that race. So, like you said, he's locked in. 6th there last year. Again, you can't take a lot from last year, but he's a hot driver right now. So, and you're getting him for 16-1. That's the guy you're going to look back on and like, none of us would have chosen. Like, man, he was right there for 16-1. He was a hot driver. We should have taken him. So I threw money his way just in case.
Kurt Busch, and he's coming off the win last time out at Atlanta, leading 144 laps. It's been a good racetrack for him, but we'll see how things go now. He's got 4 wins career-wise and 18 top fantasy-wise. He has 18 top 14s in his last 20 at Atlanta with 3 wins, and he wrecked twice. So take the wrecks out, and he's always in contention at Atlanta. That's why I put a couple of bucks on him. You put a couple of bucks like CJ did on Chastain. So again, we just talked about you picking him up on your fantasy team. He does not have any sort of prior success again in Atlanta, but we don't care about that right now. We just care about how he is racing.
Yep, third, second, last 2 weeks. He's in the car essentially de facto Kurt Busch car that he won there last year. He's in the one car. That car came from Ganassi. That's what he's in. I mean, Kurt, like you said, he's got 7 top 10s in his last state in Atlanta. A lot of them were in this car that Chastain has. And Kurt, I wrote about this. This is an interesting topic maybe for our next show is we'll see how this weekend goes. But I wrote it in the burning questions leaving the West Coast has he put a lot of pressure on Bubba Wallace now? Because you look at Bubba's finishes this season, you brought in Kurt to see where that team stood and right, like, let's get a veteran voice. Is it the car? Is it the driver? Is it a combo of both? You bring Kurt in to figure this out. Well, he's got 2 top 10s already in the last 3 races. He's taken equipment that you're like, he's been nowhere to be found all day, like last week, and he's 5th. So Bubba hasn't been able to do that yet. So, is it the car? Is it that veteran presence? So it's a good topic to have is, has Kurt put pressure on Bubba, or is he an addition to help Bubba to get this car better? But right now, I think he's given pressure on him because you got to land, like you just said, he's got 4 wins and 31 starts, and he won last July. So he can every bit come out here and look good again. And we know
he's good on super speedways too.
Exactly. But to tie him in the Chastain thing, Chastain's got that car this year, and he just seems like the hottest driver right now. 3rd and 2nd. So
he could be the next Briscoe and next Cindric.
The next Briscoe. Yep.
Yeah. Also, as far as long shots, I put a few bucks on Dylan because he's got a good history overall at Atlanta. And even though he only has 1 top 10, but he's been good there recently. 12th, 6th, 11th. Also in the Xfinity Series, 6th, one of the races last year, and good on super speedways. 30-1, and then you put a few bucks each on Jones, Suarez, Stenhouse, and Buescher. And I know Stenhouse and Buescher are very good on the super speedways. Which out of those 4 do you like the most?
Probably Buescher at 70-1, only because, again, if this looks like Daytona, RFK was good there. I feel like we talked about that in the West Coast, as we'll see a lot about RFK and see a lot about Keselowski from his past successes with Penske to this team, and they've struggled. They've just looked out the lunch. Buescher, granted, solid day last week, but you're getting him at 70-1, and he's good on super speedways. He won a duel. So in Fords, we talked about that stat, so he falls in line there. So I like Buescher this week. He was decent at Atlanta last year on the older surface. So I like to see what he can do with 70-1 odds. So I thought him and at 25-1, I threw a little bit on Keselowski just because he was best race this year was Daytona.
That's true.
And he's been good at Atlanta in the past. I mean, he had a string. We had 3 straight top 2 finishes. So I feel like, and we talked about this after Daytona 500 when Keselowski pissed a lot of his peers off by was he over aggressive knowing that was one of his few shots of winning? Is this weekend that same thing? Does he push a little bit harder? And you get him and his teammate at 25-1 and then 70-1. So I think those are 2 of your better long shots right now.
And you can check out all of our picks, including our futures updates, our fantasy standings, and more over at racereviewonline.net. Before we go, we're going to spend the last couple of minutes on, on the IndyCar race coming up on Sunday over at Texas. And taking a look at this one, the interesting thing that stands out, and this is typical of the IndyCar Series, correct me if I'm wrong, but 11 of the last 12 winners started on the front row.
Yep.
So qualifying's everything.
It is, and even more so, the big topic this weekend is for IndyCar is the PJ1. The NASCAR used that traction compound, and if you look at photos of Texas, you see that really dark lane. We've seen it in the NASCAR side, in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Well, for an IndyCar, it does the opposite of it does for a NASCAR. It makes it slippery. Nobody goes up there. You go up there, you're probably going to end up in the wall. It's been proven. So that makes starting spots even more important because
you're going to be pushed out there.
Yeah, and once you get lined up, because nobody's going to run out there. It's like a NASCAR race at Martinsville where the race is to the bottom. So this is going to be the race to the bottom. You can't pass in that outside lane. You get out there, you're going to spin.
Is this the track? Is this the race where you always get a first lap wreck?
Not.
You said that to one of the races last year. Which one? And it happened. What was it?
It was Indy. It's Indy Road Course.
Okay.
Indy Road Course.
Indy
that first
Road
turn is always there. Yeah.
Okay.
This one, you could, because of the outside lane, somebody starting the outside could get forced out there and lose it. But guys are going to take it easy. You don't want to wreck. You don't want to waste the car. So this one, there's been four fewer cautions in 13 of the last 15 Texas races. So probably going to be not as many cautions, single-digit lead changes in 3 of the last 5. So you throw all that with the starting. Yeah, qualifying is important because how do you pass? If you're starting, let's just say 5th or 6th on back, how do you get to the lead? Pit strategy is the only way. So that makes pit stops even more important. You don't want to lose spots, but yeah, qualifying is everything.
All right, and Scott Dixon, should he be the favorite based on how well he's performed here recently?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's led out of the last 660 laps, the last 3-4 years in Texas, he's led 80% of them. He's led 526 of the last 660. And he could have swept the weekend last year. Last year was a doubleheader just because of COVID. They threw a doubleheader in for that race. And he was dominating dominated the first race, was dominating the second race. The caution came out. Pitch strategy kind of put him like 3rd or 4th, and he just couldn't get back up there. But yeah, Dixon's going to be your guy you're going to want to look at. Again, things could change with practice and qualifying, but Dixon's your guy right now.
As far as the top contenders, would Award be the top contender? I know Newgarden's also had some pretty good runs the last few years, including a win in 2019. Who would you say was number 2, Award or Newgarden?
I'd say right now Newgarden, only in a sense he's really good there. He's led the top laps for Chevy lately. Pato, yes, 3rd and 1st last year. He's good on ovals. The one thing, we had a call with Pato on Wednesday, you'd think a guy with his talent, he's only 22, you've got him for the future. McLaren's not going to let go of him. Well, looks like there's some drama going on there. He technically could be a free agent in the offseason. He's not made it a secret. He wants to eventually be an F1. Part of the reason he's with McLaren is they've got an F1 team.
Oh.
He tested his deal with Zach Brown, the guy overall at all of the McLaren, Formula 1 and IndyCar team, last year was, if you win an IndyCar race, I'm going to get you an F1 test. He won at Texas. He got an F1 test. He was actually really good in that test. Well, for some reason, McLaren's got this testing program for F1 drivers this year, because you get super license points for testing and you can use young drivers. Well, he actually was overlooked. They hired Colton Herta and a couple other younger guys, not Pato. Pato's not happy about that. So he eventually wants to get to F1. It sounds like the F1 door. He said he originally had those plans and now they changed, He said. So you're coming off of adversity the first race. He's 12th, finishes 12th. They just don't look very good. He wants to win a championship. He wants to be an F1. You got all this drama with his future hanging over. I just don't know if I trust he's going to get it done this weekend. He could. He's got the talent, but we've seen championship teams with adversity strikes. How do you respond? Newgarden, I know, is a safe.
Okay, makes sense.
That's why I went that direction.
And then as far as the top sleeper, what do you think? You got Helio Castroneves. He's had tons of experience at the track. And could Scott McLaughlin win again?
He could. Yep. I'd say the top one that most people won't talk about is Graham Rahal. He's got 6 top 6s in his last 7 in Texas, including a win. The one that he didn't finish in the top 6 was only because of 2020. We had one practice session, quickly qualified, and then raced. It was kind of that one-day show. It was in June. Pandemic was going on. It was more get into town and get out of town. Let's just get the race done. Well, his car wouldn't fire. Him and Rossi and a couple other Hondas they wouldn't start when they started the engines. So he fell quickly 3-4 laps down. and he didn't get up front. He ended up running really well. He just was so many laps down, he just couldn't overcome it. That was the only outlier in the last 7 Texas starts. So Honda has been very good at Texas lately, kind of where Ford's we talked about for Atlanta. Honda is that way for Texas. So if Rahal can, his only crutch has been he doesn't qualify real good. If he could qualify up front, he's a big sleeper to watch. But right now, you can probably get a good number for him.
Got to get that first or second starting position.
You got to.
All right, so that'll wrap it up. And we want to let everybody know, especially IndyCar fans, that if you want to take a look at an early look ahead at Long Beach, we'll have that available for you along with the press conference of the winning driver of the race on Sunday for Texas. So you can check that out because we're going to have all the press conferences in the IndyCar Series. NASCAR Series is hit or miss. Like last week, they didn't even get us the press conference until so late. And if you don't get those press conferences up on the same day, it's just so hard to get enough traffic, and it's not even worth your while. So hopefully, IndyCar, usually they race a little earlier. They get it done a lot quicker, and that's why we post those pretty much 100%. So check out the press conference of the winning driver on Sunday in the IndyCar Series, and we'll have a little bit of a look ahead at Long Beach in that as well. As far as NASCAR, we'll be back again next week to talk about the road course race, correct?
Yep, COTA, second year at COTA. Oddly enough, you got IndyCar in Texas this week, NASCAR in Texas next week, but theirs is on the road course. And yeah, COTA, first road course. So like we talked about, we'll see if the parity strikes again when there hasn't been a whole lot of parity on road courses over the last few years. So big test here for this.
And check out racereviewonline.net for all of your NASCAR and IndyCar Series needs, including, of course, all the stats and trends and everything to look forward to for the races coming up on Sunday. Eric, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Sounds good.